Germany 2, Denmark 0. Lots of things happened in this game. Absolutely extraordinary viewing. There was thunder, there was goals, there was VAR, and there was 2 Danish men getting waterfalled on by that hole in the stadium. You see, that's what happens, Vish, at Manchester United. You turn it into a bit of fun.
Exactly. People look at it. It's like, when a house gets done up down the road and everyone's like, I quite fancy that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Imagine that freezing March afternoon. Oh dear. Well, I mean,
believe the kids call it a hock-to-in.
Oh, Peter.
What?
Peter.
Come on.
There was a flag that said that on it.
Did
at
it?
The game.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Lovely stuff.
Oh dear. Well, perhaps some people in Denmark will rue the fact that Denmark banner that we mentioned not that long ago. We said it could upset Big Mama UEFA, where they had UEFA, I believe it was, on the banner.
Oh dear.
And of course, the game swung in the first 5 minutes of the second half. Joachim Andersen, the Crystal Palace man, thought he'd scored. VAR ruled it out. He was a toe offside, quite literally. And then 2 minutes later, VAR judged that he handballed across, and Kai Havertz would put away the penalty with a very, very stuttering run. So
he's still fucking handsome.
I mean,
he'll be fine.
But I mean, Denmark felt aggrieved in the last tournament, of course, when Raheem Sterling was fouled,
brutally assaulted
in the semi-final.
Get over it.
Bring it back. Yeah.
We never bring up history. Get on with it.
Yeah. They thought it was very soft,
right?
Very, very soft indeed. I think they were even more angry this time round with that handball. So yeah, we'll talk about the thunder and lightning. We'll talk about the goals. But this really was the talking point, as we mentioned earlier. Christina Uncle did an amazing job on ITV in explaining why, in the drawn up rules by iFabulous, that is a penalty. She didn't say whether she agreed with it or not. The panel were pretty unanimous that they disagreed with it, but she explained it very, very well. So Jim Campbell, I'll let you open the batting.
Well, I think obviously it was really good to have her explanation of why it's a penalty according to the current rules, because often not everyone's that au fait with the ins and outs of very, very specific things. So you think surely they've got that wrong, or et cetera, et cetera. But I think in this case, the law is an ass, right? It feels really harsh for that to be a penalty because of the proximity of it. She explained that proximity has come out of the rule. She also explained because of the angle at which he turned, it hit his hand, and then that changes the trajectory of it, et cetera, whatever it was. I sort of agree with the old men, slightly concerningly from my own point of view.
I think they happen to be old men.
Yeah. It just seems a very, very harsh reason for a team to then have to face a penalty. It feels like the punishment doesn't fit the crime. I think it should be a free kick in the box instead,
right?
Because firstly, we'd all like to see more of that.
More lying down on the floor.
Yeah.
It's like
when there's a robin in a garden, someone has to point it out, or a husky walks into a pub. Everyone's like,
husky
free
special.
kick in the box is a bit like that, isn't it? So more of that would be good.
Yeah.
But I just think a penalty for something
slight.
that is very slight doesn't actually seemingly really affect the trajectory of the ball that much. I know that's hard to say, but he's very close to the defender, very difficult for him to do anything else with his arm.
It brings intent back into it, doesn't it? Which they try to pull all of that out, and by doing that, it brings it back in to a certain extent. But unless you're willing to sort of go, if the ball touches the hand, the ball goes on the penalty spot. Which is
for, too far the other way for me.
Is it? I mean, because it's the only way we're going to stop having these silly nebulous conversations about it, aren't they? So just sort of go, right, the ball touches the hand, it's going. Yeah. So maybe there will be a new raft of footballers who can really accurately find people's hands.
Well, that happened to Spurs in the Champions League final, didn't it?
Yes,
so you've changed my mind, because that was brilliant.
So it was delicious.
Stuart Atwell was one of the VAR people. And as a Nottingham Forest fan, friend of mine, said that he didn't call that one as a penalty when Forest were playing Everton in the Premier League season. So consistency and all that. But that bollocks aside, it's an absolute sickener, Vish. That kind of decision. But in the current standing, as soon as you saw the replay, you thought, that's going to be given.
So where I think it needs to kind of fall down is that if we are going to adhere to these rules, we should also be adhering to the rules that penalties should be one fluid motion, because the penalty that was taken and has been taken before in this tournament, just not good enough.
There has been some piss taking.
He stops completely. sees where the keeper's going to go, and Schmeichel nearly had it. I think that should have been retaken, and he should have been admonished for that.
Well,
it's a yellow.
I mean, obviously he didn't save the penalty. It was perfectly in the corner. But I mean, kudos to Schmeichel, who didn't seem to be fazed by that at all. But that's not the point you're making, I understand.
I mean, Lewandowski did the same thing, didn't he? And it forced Mainoo to come off his line, so it had to be retaken. Then did the same thing again. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think you've got to be careful about...
Mainoo was very unhappy about that, as you can
and
imagine.
Understandably as well. But I think you've got to be careful about how much you prescribe what a penalty taker can do, if that makes sense. You know, I think...
But it's in the rules, isn't it? They have prescribed it, and that is against what...
I
anyone
guess,
with eyes can see that's against the law.
Sure, but...
And this has been the case ever since I've been watching football, by the way. I can remember in the penalty in 1990 World Cup when someone stopped and then did one. I think it was given. Right. And I remember at the time going, that's not allowed. You can't do that.
Same with coming off your line as well.
But this has been going on for ages.
But the difficulty is judging when a person's whole body is fully stopped, isn't it? And when a pause begins, when something stops being a pause and starts being a stop.
Yeah, but
it's really difficult.
Use one of those fucking replays, Jim, that we see constantly forever.
One of the replays.
Imagine.
Get Uncle on it.
Get Uncle on it.
Yeah, exactly.
The woman from Uncle.
I think it's important as well, actually, to sort of decouple all these things or detreble all these things, because the disallowed goal was disallowed because it was offside. We all know and accept, as you're always fighting the argument for, Marcus, that the line has to be somewhere.
No, I'm smugly pointing it out.
Yeah, right, you smugly would be correct. Which
I would very happy jump off that sinking ship, Jim, if it came to it. Yeah.
So that the goal shouldn't have stood by the letter of the law. We know that, but because it then is Anderson that's involved in the handball, it feels like Denmark should be 1-0 up, and they're actually 1-0 down, and they shouldn't have been 1-0 up.
But this is why
you got to remember that. That's why it feels like such an injustice, doesn't it?
But it's the high emotions of the game, and I think that is the point that a lot of people are saying, is that when VAR came in, a lot of people were saying this will affect the emotions of the game, and some people won't give a damn about that. Some people say, "Oh, come on, don't be such children about it," or whatever. But that is what's going on. And you can see that with, so for example, Ange Postecoglou, who has always said that he's not pro-VAR and so on. But he's the type of guy that referee's decision is final. And he I don't know what his previous is with this. People can point out and go, well, he wasn't happy about this decision or whatever. To be fair to Roy Keane, he said, look, the offside is what it is. He was moaning about the handball. The fact of the matter is, Havertz steps up and he scores, and Denmark go a goal down. And there's a lot more to the game that we can talk about. So people will have their say.
Right, his kimono.
There you go. That was nice. He can get away with all sorts.
He can.
What a man! So that was the first goal of the game. Of course, there was a goal scored very early on. Schlotterbeck had a goal disallowed after Kimmich body checked the Danish defender at corner.
That was the right call.
Yeah, I mean, it's not American football, is it? I mean, it's like he's a quarterback being protected. Schlotterbeck was too busy flexing his biceps to kind of notice it had been given or disallowed, which was quite amusing. And of course, Julian Nagelsmann, who has previously described himself as a friend of VAR, did call Michael Oliver petty for not allowing that goal.
Anyone who's English currently out of the Euros is just getting it in the neck, aren't they?
Yeah, indeed. So that's what happened there. So yes, but Germany went at Denmark early on, and it looked like it was going to be a rout.
It really did.
Peter Schmeichel, his son, Kasper, stood tall, did he not, Peter?
He certainly did. And I think he was criticised at times for his positioning in one of the goals. But I mean, obviously one of the goals was from the penalty spot. But I think he, shot-stopping wise, has still got it in him, hasn't he? Like some of the clawing out he did, I thought was really, really good. But I think he's still got a lot to offer the game.
I feel like he's still growing because to men of our generation, he is defined as being someone else's son.
Yes.
I still can't I can't quite wrap my head around him. Like, he's 37 now. Like, that seems crazy to me.
Wow.
But it still feels like he's a growing lad. He's got a bright future in the game.
I know what you mean. Yeah, he was on form and he needed to be to keep Germany out.
The first 10 minutes, you're like, right, you just need a few more of these 10-minute periods where you don't let anything in.
Well, it did look like it was going to be one-way traffic the whole game. And I understand Germany obviously won the game 2-0.
Well, the thunder break was came at a really bad time.
Yeah, Denmark were getting back into it, weren't they?
And even after, actually, when they came back on for the 10 minutes or whatever it was to finish off the half, they had chances. I mean, your man Rasmus Hojlund, Vish, the chance there, and again, it seemed obvious to put it across the keeper.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, he had chances to put them ahead and to equalise as well.
Yeah.
And they'll look back at that Denmark, and I understand Germany missed chances up the other end. I mean, Havertz nearly scored one of the best goals of the tournament. Was it Leroy Sané who whacked the ball past?
That was offside anyway, but it was
true. Okay, yes, you're right to say. But Denmark, this actually was a very spirited performance from Denmark, who had been criticised back home in Denmark about their showing in the group stages. Now against England, they zipped the ball around quite nicely, but England were just so deep that they.
They didn't really do all that much. I mean, this is comfortably their best performance of the Euro.
Indeed, yeah. And it's a shame for them that they've gone out, because against Slovenia, the second half was pretty poor. Against Serbia, just one goal, and they would have been in the other half of the draw. Which actually, if Denmark were playing Slovakia later, you think, actually, they've got a chance to maybe progress, but obviously that's not happened. So disappointing, really, that they've gone out and they'll come off the pitch just thinking, yeah, that's another one where we could have maybe gone a little bit further.
Maybe, yeah, because in part because of what we discussed before about the flip in fortunes over that disallowed goal and then the penalty concession as well. But I mean, Germany were just too good for them. I thought what was quite impressive was Nagelsmann just playing Sané instead of Florian Wirtz, considering the season that Wirtz has had. And also in a way, the season that Sané's had, we've seen flashes of brilliance from him, but he's a bit hot and cold. And he clearly just thought, right, they've not really got much pace out wide. We can break on them because they love possession. You can take cues from the England game. They like passing the ball around. They're not that quick in transition. We've got Musiala. Why don't we put another set of legs on there?
Well, you can play high line, as you saying.
And it worked really well. And then at the same time, I thought Rudiger was outstanding because he is an absolute wild man.
Oh, he is.
He's my favourite defender of the modern era, like without doubt. He's so funny, so brilliant at his job.
I mean, that dive he did when he clears the ball.
Yeah, but he's like
sets the tone, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like you're like one of your really good mates who you love him to death, but he's an absolute liability on a night out.
Yeah,
hello.
I think there was a point.
But he'll never get beaten up.
No.
And he'll stop that. In the wildness, for some reason, it will protect you and everything will be okay. And it defies logic.
Yeah, you'll find yourself somewhere that you never thought you'd be at 4 a.m.
Yep.
And he would also be the person to turn around and be like, should we go home? It's like, well, you brought us here. But yes, let's go home.
A great example of that was Nico Schlotterbeck, like really, really cheering, conceding a throw-in, which again, I think comes from having Rudiger beside him and making that thing.
Yeah.
And that looked like a kind of horrifying thing to face from a Danish perspective because they're so pumped up and they just appear to have more energy than you in a situation like that. If they're expending energy, celebrating tackles and things like that, it really, really feels like a lot bigger task. And actually, we talk about how Denmark could have won the game. I think the chances Hojlund had, they weren't very clear cut. He had a lot to do, and it's hard to think of a chance they should absolutely have put away.
The fact that he had more than
Germany
one of them
restricted them well.
Yeah, but he had one where he thumped straight at Neuer.
Yeah, but he had to strike it then. It was difficult. Clive Tyldesley said a really interesting thing about Hojlund. Clive's last game, obviously, if you're outside the
for
UK,
ITV.
sort of legendary commentator for ITV. It'll be his last game for ITV. He said of Hojlund, Man United wanted a hit man. They got a hit and miss man. Hit and miss boy, really. It's like, hit and miss boy. Does he save the day? Does he make it work? That's not a good trait, that. He kind of went down swinging a bit, Clive, didn't he? He was having real fun with it.
Sarah came in the room and he said something about rip it up and start again, orange juice lyric. And Sarah went, what the fuck is he talking about? Being a music fan of Sam.
I was hoping he might have a few. Like here
bottle of red wine on the go, lovely.
Now we come to the Lions.
Wogan at Eurovision.
He was the one who wrote the sexy book, wasn't it?
Yes.
Tyldesley,
his autobiography.
Which sexy book.
Yeah, we didn't think it was going to be a sexy book.
Will I score? I always score.
Tyldesley does beautifully ornate, handwritten team sheets, doesn't he?
He does, right?
Yeah, lovely.
I think you can buy them.
Yeah, you can. I think he will be missed at major tournaments.
Without a doubt. Without getting into... I suppose let's get into it.
Why not?
He is the best commentator they have on staff at the ITV.
I agree with you.
And it seems kind of mad.
And he doesn't want to go, that's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, he will get work elsewhere. It's just the consistency of being around English football will wane a bit because because it's split between only so many broadcasters.
And then we should say as well that any time that we've got in touch with Tyldesley to ask for an interview or anything like that, he's always been really lovely and really helpful and good company. And yes, this is the odd choice quote from his book, as you found out, Jim. So which
it's funny. It is
funny.
It's very likable.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't need to hear about him losing his virginity in a bivouac, but fine.
But you're open to hearing about it. You know.
Well, I've not been given a choice. But I still don't mind it.
One time is fine. You don't need the VAR afterwards. running it through you again.
Oh dear. Well, yeah. I'm sure we'll hear his voice in lots of other places.
Oh, he'll be on some hooky feed, broadcasting from Los Angeles or something. I'm sure
he should do the trains or something.
Right? Yeah.
Well, like the Underground.
Yeah, London Underground. Get him on there.
Going into a tunnel. But this reminds me of a story.
Victoria Station. I'll tell you about Victoria. We have to mention a word, Jim, on Jamal Musiala. You spotted him playing for Bayern last season.
I did, yeah.
Spotted him playing for Bayern Munich.
It's another one I scouted.
Yes.
Scout Campbell.
And you're right. He's a really good player.
Yeah, he's impacting games, isn't he? He's affecting every game he's playing in. He's joint top scorer now as well. The way he took his finish was brilliant because
they needed that.
Yeah, they really did. And he is a player that provides that spark and that X factor. And it's interesting to me that it's Florian Wirtz who was taken out and Musiala that's kept in. He's clearly that vital to how they play. And Nagelsmann's probably first pick on the team sheet. But there does feel like a lot of terrifying depth in that squad, doesn't there? When you've got Füllkrug coming on and being involved as well. But yeah, Musiala he's so much fun to watch. He's one of those players where you get a lot of people who don't necessarily watch football year in, year out.
Yeah.
And he advertises the idea of maybe getting into football a bit more, doesn't he? He's one of those players.
It's a nice way of putting it.
That is a lovely way of putting it, because there were moments yesterday where when Denmark was set up without the ball, Germany were finding it difficult to pass through them, but at the same time, Musiala was running with the ball through them. It's like he doesn't have all the requisite bones. That makes him a bit like an octopus, where he can squeeze into tight spaces.
That X-Files man who squeezes down the pipes
exactly
and
like
stuff.
him. Yeah, stay away, David Duchovny. But he has this way about him that he can do all the individual stuff, and it doesn't seem to impact on what the team are trying to do.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? It's not like the obvious comparison is Bellingham here, but there have been a few times this tournament where we thought, Bellingham, you're trying a bit too hard, and the collateral is you're running into someone else's space, or, the vibe, the kind of shape of the team is being skewed because you decided you want to go over there.
Yeah.
Whereas Musiala feels like he knows what the parameters are and he works in and out of those. It's wonderful.
What about Germany then? I mean, we've seen them in the groups now. We've seen them in a knockout game. If they were to get Spain, for example, in the next round, or even if it was maybe France or Portugal in the semi-final, what do you think? Do you think they can be got at? I mean, every team could be got at. But do you think we're looking... I mean, Alan McCoy was asked this, are we looking at the tournament winners here? And McCoy said no. Yeah,
because he specifically thinks Spain, doesn't he? I think that Switzerland gave them a scare, right? And they only drew that game. So in a knockout game, who knows where that would have gone? So I think absolutely Spain in particular could beat them. I think they've been very impressive, but they don't look kind of unbeatable. They may regret that late equaliser against Switzerland. Yeah, because they would have been playing Italy and then England or Slovakia.
Could that one goal from Scotland have helped or hindered any?
I don't think it would have helped even Scotland.
No, good point. Good point.
Although if Scotland had beaten Hungary, they would have gone through as the lowest ranked fourth place side.
Interesting. I like that.
All right then, coming up in the second half, we've got that Switzerland win against Italy. We look ahead towards England, Slovakia and Spain versus Georgia. And good news for England supporters, full strength beer will now be served in the stadiums. Whee!
I used to get invited to a Sunday lunch. All his family and his wife was there. I was the only one who wasn't part of the family. And he said, pointing at Ghislaine, she is the only person in this room apart from me with any balls. I'll never, ever forget that.
Do you think Robert Maxwell was evil?
He was pushed over.
Pushed over by?
Mossad.
There was a rumour in Hartlepool, at Hartlepool United, there used to be a famous supporter called Lawrence. He was a cross-dresser.
I remember you mentioning him before.
He was famous, I mean, obviously, in the 80s and 90s, seeing a man in high heels and a skirt and wearing, going to football and being quite a vociferous kind of supporter of Hartlepool United. Usually with the Crystal Palace shirt, confusingly, and he was from down south, which was even more confusing. But he facially resembled Robert Maxwell, and everyone said he was Robert Maxwell's kind of illegitimate son and stuff.
Oh.
So it adds more layers to the Lawrence, the Hartlepool fan story in many ways. So he was banned for I think hitting someone. So he used to come in through the away end.
He didn't push someone over, did he?
No, he didn't. He got arrested for murder, but obviously he didn't actually do it. He didn't do it. Well, he's dead, but I can say he didn't do it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
You can you?
I think someone died in his building. And,
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
He's dead now. So yeah.
Okay.
Rest in peace, Lawrence.
How is this more awkward than the clip?
Do you know who might have killed him? Because he resembled so much Robert Maxwell.
Mossad.
Correct. So have some fucking respect, Vish. All right?
I'm not bringing Fizzer into this.
All right.
Switzerland 2, Italy 0. The holders are out, and deservedly so. They were piss poor.
Rubbish.
They
So bad.
really were.
Give it to us. That one you took off us.
Yeah.
Give it back.
Give it back. That
That
was
was
rubbish,
such an
that.
anomaly, right? In recent times with Italy, failing on 2 World Cups, and yet the last Euros, obviously they were brilliant. I mean, they were, what was it, a near 40-game unbeaten streak or something?
Yeah,
like that?
under
It was
Mancini.
so good then, wasn't it?
I wouldn't mind if we could say that one
Yeah,
day.
I would take decades of further underperformance.
I mean,
they were so average though, weren't they?
they
And-
really were. I
and-
mean, it reminds me a little bit of, when you have great Milan sides with some old stalwarts, and then when they all retire and leave, and it's like, well, where is everybody
Yeah.
now? And they don't have it because Italy. I think England fans. I think England fans underrate the Italian side in the last Euros. If you actually look on paper in that final, I think Italy actually shade it in terms of the quality of the
Sure.
sides.
because of one player who is now so integral to their team that he's a standout. Barella.
Yeah.
No one really knew much about Barella going into the. Isn't like casual fans maybe didn't know much about Barella.
Yeah.
And now he's so integral and he's surrounded by idiots.
That's the thing, isn't it? I mean, it's tempting to look at the amount of change between the current Italy team and the team that won the last Euros and think, oh, it's a transitional thing. It must be that they're bringing through youth, etc., etc. That's not the case. They don't have youth as an explanation at all or an excuse at all. It's a poor crop of players. They've got very, very little to choose from. And Barella is the standout name, isn't he? Like,
He's the smartest man in the room now,
that's
isn't
kind
he?
of it. Barella, Chiesa, they're probably Donnarumma. They're the names, really. But
Jorginho was on the bench
There's
for this
no one
game.
where you look at them and think, oh, they've not got the best out of X player.
Well,
it's just that the squad is bang average.
There are quite a few young players in there who are probably promoted ahead of their time, and I mean more actually starting, like Fagioli starting.
Yeah, Calafiori
Yeah.
has done well. To a point. Maybe been a bit overrated, I think.
But whether there's anything in this or not, but it's Italy fans and England fans, obviously they haven't played Slovakia at the time of recording. But people will say, but look what Austria are getting out of that group of players. You could even say the same about Georgia, although slightly different.
I've got Switzerland.
Switzerland, point in case, absolutely.
To the tune of 2-0.
Indeed, yeah. I mean, Italy have a better squad than Switzerland. I mean, maybe you might argue that
I
Switzerland.
don't know that that's fair.
Well,
actually.
okay, but they've got a better squad than Austria, for example.
Sure.
And I know you can cherry pick, and it's not just. You're not playing flipping Pro Evo or FIFA or what was it called, EA Sports or whatever the bloody
EAFC 24.
Thank you. But the old games still exist though, and so I understand all that kind of stuff. And when Spalletti went there, I remember thinking ahead of the Euros, oh, blimey, he's going to make them good.
Yeah.
It just hasn't happened. For whatever reason, Spalletti has his reasons, by the way. He said, look, I take the blame. Then he said, actually...
Said a lot of stuff, didn't he?
Yeah, and then he blamed the heat, because it's freezing in Italy. He blamed his players' efforts and training, which is bold.
The journalists.
The lack of time to prepare, because I think he only had a couple of handfuls of games before this. How Italy don't produce physically gifted players. I mean, he did win the last Euros, pal. Injuries. And my favourite was the ease of Inter's Serie A title win and the weight of expectation.
Yeah.
Wow.
The weight of expectation is because you're the holders.
My favourite one is the men of this country are physically weak. I can't imagine that's going to go down very well. Obviously paraphrasing, but yeah.
Does he still have a home in Naples? Yeah.
They took his car before, didn't they? And they gave it back. So maybe they'll have stolen his house.
He's moving to Switzerland, isn't he?
The thing is, actually, I don't think it's quite that bad.
Yeah.
I think actually He probably will stick around though, right?
Well, he wants to. He's
didn't
spoken
have
the
a long-
present and future tense.
He is correct in saying that he didn't have a lot of time to prepare. So as disastrous as this was, they probably will stick with him.
Just for his pressers, they've just been absolutely fantastic.
Oh, he's very fiery.
Potty-mouthed.
Yeah. But he is a coach who's made his name pulling people together and you know, creating something where the sum was so great than the individuals together, because that's the coach he is. Like he's a system coach. He works at getting the most out of players. And I think probably actually for this Italian squad, it would be really good for them. It just hasn't quite happened here. And I think the other thing about personnel as well, Darmian starting at left back yesterday because DeMarco was injured. Like they lose a bit of thrust down that left as well. Obviously they play Shawari because I suppose they want to hold on to that. But it basically ended up being Chiesa having to go on both wings.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I do have a little bit of sympathy.
Yeah, DeMarco's a big loss, actually. That's worth pointing out.
Yeah, and at the same time, Switzerland were brilliant.
Yeah, they were, and we'll talk about them in just a second. But with Spalletti...
But not enough, because this is very much the focus, isn't it?
Well,
However many teams wouldn't have beaten Italy on this performance.
Well, I think we're talking about it because they are the holders, you know, and they're a huge footballing nation. You know, they're one of the great footballing nations in the world, of course. And Spalletti himself... We shouldn't overrate, underrate. He's won one Serie A title in his career. Now, obviously, you know, I understand if you compare them with the English coaches. No English coach ever won the Premier League. But he, you know, because of that season at Napoli and because of the great football Roma played under him, we kind of remember those two. But there's a lot of in between time there. He won a Russian league, perhaps with St. Petersburg. Would it be, isn't it? But anyway, without going about his career, he wants to play a very distinctive style of football. And unless it kind of clicks like it did with Napoli, say, it does take a bit of time. And he's obviously got his frustrations. It's been a bit of a mismatch. It'll be interesting to see if Italy keep him. Because if they do, it's a gamble, right? They're saying, right, let's see if it does gel. Let's see if there is this kind of, the proverbial clicking kind of thing. But if not, they are going to have to roll the dice again. So, yeah, we shall see. But Switzerland were brilliant. There's no two ways about that. They were decent in the group. And they were great here. Scored two lovely goals, but straight from the off, they were on the front foot and they just didn't look like that they were going to lose at any point.
No, they're full of running. They press like absolute animals. Like they really, really fit, and it's really striking, and it stands out actually at this tournament in general. They seem to have almost the best engine, you know. They're really, really organised. It's kind of unspectacular, isn't it? It's not flashy, but it's really, really effective, and they're so organised. And the system really, really stands out. Italy couldn't just figure out a way around them. Yeah, and it was really impressive to see Switzerland just sort of take the reins and produce quite a front-footed performance that you don't often see that much in knockout tournament football at international level.
Yeah, they were brave from the start. Like basically from kickoff, they were playing like line splitting passes, and they were doing them at the earliest opportunity as well. There was clearly a game plan that, like, look, this Italy team are they're a bit stationary, truth be told. And when you see the opportunity, do it. And that's basically how the goal comes about. Yeah, because it's quite a big pass to play in there when you've also got. So you had one other person in the box, you had another runner potentially as well. In another situation, you might think, "I'll hold on to this and cross it," but he plays that pass straight away, and it's an incredible first touch.
I mean, they see what Italy have done in the group, and they've thought to themselves, "They're not improving." Yeah, this is a warning for England, and we're going to come on to England in a moment. But this is a warning for England. This idea that it'll come good, or it will just kind of click. I don't think that actually too many people in England are saying that, actually. I think that everyone is quite concerned and they think, come on. But again, the idea that, when the knockouts come round and so on. If England do beat Slovakia, which they are obviously favourites to do, despite what's gone in the group, Switzerland, in fact, I mean, whoever goes through, really, Switzerland will just go, well, same again. Yeah. And they know it. And yes, okay, fine. They may not pull too many surprises. Perhaps they will, but I don't think so, because it's so effective, as you were saying, Jim. You know, Mbolo's now he's up top. And my goodness, if it weren't for Donnarumma, they would have obviously. And we've said that about Italy before. They've had a few more.
I do think Italy defended in such a sloppy way that they were
so many gaps.
Their own downfall. I mean, Freuler managing to volley a first touch in the box with a man on him and still get that shot off. And the second goal was criminal. It's like they forgot that you can get the ball out of the box if you want. Have a go. Yeah, you don't have to let them shoot.
Yeah, I mean, it was a beautiful goal.
It was brilliant finish.
But you're right, though. The room he had, and there were Italian players around him. that could have closed him.
Did they think that to get out of the box, you have to let them have a shot on target? Yeah, that's how it works.
But the vibes of the two teams were totally different. When Switzerland won that game, it really felt like another one down, lads. Right, come on, we have got momentum. We're on the march here. Whereas Italy, it felt like, yeah, thank goodness that's over. Let's all just go home.
They didn't seem particularly down about it
because they knew they were a beaten side. So early on, which is criminal, really.
Yeah,
because they had a chance. I mean, I forget who it was now. Actually, who had that chance where he knocked it onto the post? I want to say it was Schmeichel. It was a great chance. Should have scored. And you've always got a chance. Switzerland were 2-0 up, not 4-0 up.
I think that would have been offside because the flick on header.
You're right. Yes, you are right.
I think that was ultimately their best chance because the header would have been onside and he kind of messed up that opening.
You're right to say that, but it was so limp from Italy. Like embarrassingly so, like a country like that, with the tradition and, as I say, having been the bloody holders, I tell you what, there will be massive, outpouring of all sorts of negative emotion in Italy over this performance because it really was piss poor.
Yeah.
But again, in Switzerland, they're thinking, lads, we've got a real chance here. Because, as England fans, we're looking around going, okay, we're nice side of the draw. Well, you bottom frank that's what the Swiss are doing because they could go all the way here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they'll be looking at that. And I think it shows you actually the power of emotion in games and controlling. And obviously Southgate is all about this, and we're maybe seeing that starting to wobble at the moment. But the athleticism and the organisation of Switzerland is obviously really, really impressive. But the maturity is there, and it's the ruthlessness.
Yeah.
Like you might not get a lot of chances, and you've got to make them count. But and they did that really, really well. It wasn't like a swashbuckling performance, was it? Where they had chance after chance after chance. They carved openings and took them well. Exactly, and that is sometimes enough. And it's about controlling that kind of narrative as it unfolds almost.
What about your former Arsenal boy, Granit Xhaka?
I was just going to mention him.
Hasn't lost a game in Germany.
2 years he's been on top of his game, and he's only 31.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this yesterday because in my head I was like, well, he's gone back to Germany. He's at Leverkusen, and I was like, well, probably like mid to late 30s, so probably like winding down. So he was 31. I was like, there's definitely one big move in there because he is everywhere without actually needing to be everywhere. He's range of passing, even his shots from range, but also like he's just a fucking hard bastard as well.
It's extraordinary how his career's gone since moving to Germany, and also to
be fair, that last season at Arsenal he was outstanding, and they didn't recover.
2 seasons.
Yeah, and they, I don't think personally they recovered from selling him. Or from him moving on last season. I think if they, I'm not saying they would win the league last season if he's playing, they're definitely closer to it.
Well, I mean, people have understandably said that certain players are tired going into this tournament. I'm not arguing that. Of course, if you're tired, you're tired.
Oh, he's a machine, though.
But he is a machine, and the season that he's had at Bayer Leverkusen, the intensity of it, and going all the way in all the competitions, and he looks like he could just keep going and going and going.
Can I just say, so I don't get tweets? Arsenal actually finished closer to winning the league last season than the season before with him in the team. So that has to be taken into account. Also, I don't think he'll move from Bayer Leverkusen because he's currently doing his coaching badges, and that was apparently part of the appeal of going to Bayer Leverkusen, that there'll be like a coaching path there as well. So I think he'll probably stay there the rest of his career and then start his coaching career with them.
Yeah.
I do miss him.
But I do maintain that. I think if he was in that Arsenal,
if he was an option
season,
as well,
then you're closer to it than you were.
Well, he's not there. And he's getting closer to European Championship glory. You have to say,
might he destroy us?
I hope
he would love that. Why wouldn't you love that if you were him?
Yeah, he'll be. If England get through against Slovakia, then he will be thinking, oh yeah, I remember that time when all those Arsenal fans booed me. So you lot could take a lot of the flack.
Shaqiri as well.
Is that what you're saying?
He'll be on.
Yeah, they're all going to be at it.
They rested the power cube, didn't they?
Shaw.
Rested.
Didn't Fabian Shaw break his nose earlier in the tournament? It still looks absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
I love how he's just getting that lovely grey hair.
Yeah.
He's just becoming an even more handsome older man.
Yeah. I mean, that back three for Switzerland have been brilliant.
Yeah.
But also as well, that it's the type of performance that you want in a second round. And it's usually when you play a side who just squeak through into the tournament, maybe it's their first tournament, something like that, and you do a professional job, you beat them 2-0, you don't really break much of a sweat, but it gives everybody a bit of confidence. It's Italy we're talking about, by the way. I know it's not a great Italian side, but still.
It hints at more, doesn't it?
It does.
It's like when a
hint at
TV
more.
show starts getting really good and you're like, you know what, I'm just going to watch the next episode.
Yes, exactly. Well, they will play England or Slovakia who play at 5 p.m. today. Obviously, Spain and Georgia will play. One of them will play Germany. That's the later kickoff. Kobbie Mainoo is set to start in midfield, which apparently is Southgate's only change. And we know he likes to rotate that position.
He does.
Good.
Yeah.
I wish they'd rotate him towards the bloody goal.
Well, it's interesting that Mainoo, all the chat is saying that he's going to start. And I was saying this before the tournament. I would start him in midfield, and Luke and I had that out on Lions Watch. So I don't want to rehash that. But clearly,
rehash it after the match.
Depending on how it goes. Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. I feel I'm in the lead at the moment, but it could all go wrong. But interestingly, Mainoo played against Belgium in that friendly a few months ago, and then he played against Iceland. England did look a little bit more open and vulnerable with him in there, but they definitely keep the ball a bit better, and their passing is more progressive and is more accurate, for want of a better word, and is more tidy with Mainoo in there. So I suppose, looking at the opponent, England have got to be on the front foot against Slovakia. Slovakia are no mugs, but I mean, even in the group, actually, against Belgium, let's be honest, they had an enormous slice of luck. Okay, they took their chance well, but on another day, Belgium win that 3-1, perhaps. They then are second best against Ukraine, who are out. I mean, Ukraine aren't a bad side, but that's it. And then a draw against Romania, and they go through. So England have nothing to fear other than themselves, which is what we've said time and time again over the years, I understand. But under Southgate, that's not really been the case.
And Slovakia, all the noise coming from their camp is about how they see this as a positive opportunity.
Yes.
England look terrified, and they are going to be front-footed. We'll see if that actually is how it pans out on the day. But actually, that plays into England's hands. I think that's a good thing. And you know what? This is a massive opportunity to turn the mood around here, because
as it was against Slovenia.
No, but I think it's different though, because knockout football is so different from the group stages, and public opinion moves really, really quickly. And if there's a decent performance here, doesn't even have to be amazing. Just need to create some chances, put some of them away. The mood will be, they're starting to click.
It's like,
hang on. Suddenly, if you play in Switzerland in the next round, that feels quite daunting at the moment, doesn't it? But if you get a good win here and you get just a decent performance, that'll be enough for people to think, Switzerland doesn't seem quite so bad now.
Joe Biden had a good rally the day after in Carolina. That's all we're saying, all right? And everyone remembers that.
Yeah.
Everyone remembers that. I will say that Neil Maupay has just posted on his Twitter while we've been on of him in an England shirt going, guys, I live here, so I've got to get on board.
He's had a visit from someone, hasn't he?
The boys.
Yeah, that's something's happened.
Something's happened. Someone's got you,
somehow
cow.
fills me with less confidence.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, he's got an England shirt. What's he going to do to it?
He's going to turn around.
On the back, it'll have Slovakia winners or something. That's what it'll be.
Yeah, it'll probably channel his amazing goal score. Oh, hold on.
Yeah, that's all we've got, Bish. That's all we've got. Well, Southgate said that Luke Shaw is not fit enough to start, but he may be involved.
So, I mean, like I said a couple of days ago, like if things go, he's looking the wrong way. If it goes well for England, then they should definitely take the opportunity to give him minutes, let's say half an hour. And to be fair, maybe even if it's not going well, because if he's fit enough to have this idea that he could be involved at some point, if England happen to be chasing the game, whether it's an opener or an equaliser, then bringing him on could have that benefit as well. The Mainoo thing. Your chat about them being too open for the games that he played previously, I do agree with that. I think, though, that he could be an antidote to the sitting back, which does seem to affect the team, especially because at his best, and we've mostly seen his best, all told, or close to it, he's a good conduit in midfield. He links people together very well. He's not afraid to play those early kind of splitting passes to that front, to Foden,
forward passes
to Foden, Bellingham and Saka, which they've both been, the three of them have been starved of. And importantly, it will probably allow Rice a bit more time to get on top of Lobotka, who is their key player, really. He's the one that makes everything tick. He's an outstanding footballer. Yeah. He is so busy in that part of the field. Well, we're actually probably more Bellingham, to be fair. It would probably require Bellingham to just keep an eye on him a bit. But if you cut him off at source, I think they are, they will lack for ideas. And Mainoo will be able to help facilitate that, I think.
Yeah, I think that's well said. And I think it's right to start him. I think the idea of but be a bit open and so on. You've got to be at some point, especially against a team that is clearly inferior to England. You've got to be more front-footed. You really do.
And I think actually, I'm kind of disappointed that we're not going to see Gordon from the start, or probably won't see Gordon from the start. But again, you have to look at the positivity, don't you? That front four that we're all expecting so much from. This is their 4th game together now, so you have to give them. I suppose give them some credit. We know what good players they are. Players take a little bit of time to click together, don't they? So hopefully they'll be a bit more fluid. We'll see a bit more of the connections we want from all of them.
Yeah, I mean, Gareth Southgate is very much, the cool head and everybody just stay calm and not rip it up and make wholesale changes. It didn't work for Italy, but that's them. So I understand that. He was never going to sort of massively switch it.
Sure.
He did say, we're about 5% off or something to where we want to be. And I thought, I wouldn't put a percent, I wouldn't put a figure on it.
Yeah, you made it worse.
Both Southgate and Kane say that essentially they just need to be more ruthless in the final third. But I'm like, but you're not really creating much in the final third.
But they know this.
I'm not sure that
they know
it's
this.
about ruthlessness.
Be ruthless maybe they think the final third's a different third. Do you know what I mean? That could be the middle third.
Of the pitch.
Yeah, the middle of the final
like,
third. Yeah.
Again, I think they know this, though.
They've not spent so much time in our idea of a final third, so maybe the second third is what they think is the final third. So we need to explain to them there is another final third.
Oh, they're only playing
explain
in 2/3.
Explain to Kim what 3 is, right? Okay. That's all we need.
Right, and then we'll be fine. Yeah, I mean, look, they know more than anybody that it's not been...
Sure.
So that's the thing with England. And again, I said about Italy, this is a kind of a warning. This idea of, no, these players will come good. Harry Kane's fitness levels will suddenly be fine, and then we can press. Again, surely the England manager knows this more than most. And I think this is what we were talking about the other day, that you think, well, surely that England manager from the past knew this, and surely that England manager could spot that, and then they didn't really, and you go out with a whimper, and I think that's all we were quite worried about.
He has to find positives that don't make negative headlines, which is a skill in itself.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And I think what we're all hoping for is that England were just saying, let's just get the group phase done. And against Slovenia, they thought, actually, we could do with winning this just in case Denmark win their game. And of course, it didn't matter. But, Slovenia was a little bit better, a tiny bit better. But Slovenia showed no attacking threat in that second half. Slovakia will show attacking threat. It's knockout football, for crying out loud. So
on pens, you'd have them on experience. So,
well,
it's all
say that. We want
Come
that.
on! I didn't know me joke about Phil Foden, did I?
Go on, then.
I wouldn't want to see any fours in my den, so maybe we shouldn't play him.
Yeah. Good point.
A very good point.
I offer that to Andy Brassel.
Offer it to Gary Lineker, he'll have it.
I rang the Times.
You're better off the cuff, really, aren't you?
Oh, well, there is good news, though, for the England supporters group.
Piss off. Piss off, Jim, please.
He got you there, Jim.
Got you there.
After a request
from yours to the morgue
from England supporters groups, the stadium authorities have revoked an early decision, and full-strength beer will now be served in the stadium at Gelsenkirchen.
Is that based on how the games have burned so far? Do they look at it and think you need this?
Is this just kind of like what for all England games they didn't have them?
I think it
was
says
just England
specifically
games?
for Gelsenkirchen.
Oh, that particular.
Maybe there is the other stadiums, but we're talking about that one. I mean, the England fans have been sort of pretty well behaved. I mean, there's been sort of a number of people being arrested. And so
bare minimum. Well done.
And it's well, I mean, that is
there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, but a lot of fans of other
people were concerned it was going to be an absolute nightmare, weren't they? And it hasn't been,
but they haven't had full-strength beer.
Well, again, it probably is sympathy, isn't it? Another potential positive if we get past Slovakia and we play Switzerland is the Swiss fans are mad. They are so loud. I mean, I know you've certainly experienced it as well. I don't know if you have, Peter Vish, but Swiss club fans are the loudest I've ever heard. Like
it's underrated, I think.
Like decibels. So it was absolutely mad. And yes, Emirates quiet, ha ha ha. But like it's nothing compared to other visiting fans. And I think they're so loud it might keep our fans awake, which is ideal.
That's true.
Because a lot of them are sleeping in grounds accidentally.
Yeah,
falling asleep.
Point, actually,
accidentally, yeah.
During the match, after the match, 4 a.m. waking up.
Yeah.
Our fans are the Joe Biden of international supporters. Better than being the Donald Trump, which they have previously been.